What's good, people? I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So today is a slightly different type of video. I want to talk about a little experiment that I did with ChatGPT in relation to finances. And I was with my cousin over the weekend and my wife, and I was looking at some YouTube, no, not even YouTube, Instagram Reels. And there was one lady talking about how she asked ChatGPT, what does a really bad financially sort of like set up system look like, and what sort of things would they do? And they were saying all this stuff that was really negative. I was just like, rah, is this true? Was she just chatting, what sort of thing? And so I thought to myself, actually, let me put this into ChatGPT myself and see what it comes up with. So this was the actual prompt. I'm going to say it out loud. Obviously, because I'm using my phone, you can't see what I'm saying, but I'm going to read off the screen anyway. It says, if you wanted to create a system that makes people financially broke forever, but believe they could get out, what would that look like? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So if you were to set up a system that would make sure that nobody was to escape it, but gave them the hope that they could, what would that look like? And so this is some of the stuff that I came up with. I think there are like 8 points, so bear with me. So the first point was illusion of opportunity, hope as a control mechanism. How messed up does that sound? And it says here, the system must give people the illusion that financial freedom is attainable, but make it nearly impossible to achieve. And before I continue, you're going to note that this is scarily similar to some of the stuff we're experiencing right now. And of course, my first thought was, well, of course it's going to be similar to a degree because that's its only reference point. But AI is supposed to be creative, so to speak. But if it's only fed the thing that has been fed, then what other references does it have? So something to think about in terms of caveats and stuff. It also said under this point, it would heavily promote rags to riches stories, suggesting that anyone can become wealthy if they just work hard enough and make the right choices. It would constantly move goalposts, even when individuals feel they are making progress, new costs, crises or regulations appear to push them back. Let's pause. Now, the whole rags to riches thing is interesting because you could argue I'm contributing to that based on doing videos based on this stuff, helping individuals climb the career ladder. I wouldn't even say that because it's not that I'm against it, but I believe in creation, as you know already, or even progress in the direction that they want to align to what they're aiming to do. But if you're naive to this model, then you become an agent for that naturally. Interesting thought. So do you give people hope? I guess it's down to whether you give people false hope or not. And with that falsity, it would assume that you know something that they don't. That's different. So, okay, so we're breaking it down. Then there's also constantly moving goalposts. I start thinking about some of the stuff that was introduced via the autumn budget in the UK last year, 2024. And some of the stuff in relation to the national employers increase from 13.8% to 15%. So national insurance contributions increase, which meant that there's more strain and pressure on organizations. And that typically means that, okay, hiring may reduce potentially, or contractors may be laid off or consultants laid off, just because organizations may not be able to upkeep some of these costs. There's a whole bunch of other stuff involved in terms of rules and regulations and stuff. And so I think of a very sort of like conservative heavy or legalese heavy sort of like economy that just makes it difficult for people to progress, whether you are in a lower socio-economic quartile or an upper socio-economic quartile in terms of like your purchasing power. That's a challenge. Anyway, let's keep on going. So that was part one. There's 8 parts to this. Part 2, debt as a lifetime subscription. So student loans make higher education appear necessary for success, but ensure tuition costs skyrocket while wages stagnate. Keep repayment structure complex, ensuring interest accumulates faster than principal repayment. Okay, cool. Credit dependency. So depend on credit for cars, education, medical expenses, credit cards, etc. And compound debt traps. So offer help in the form of refinancing or consolidation loans, stretching out debt over a lifetime. Right. Okay. So student loans. We've seen that student loans have increased, not year on year, but I would say like at certain points in time, should we say, and it's just got more expensive. It is a madness in the States. I don't even know how you guys do it in the States. I'm telling you, because it's mad. I've been in a situation where I used to have student loan, but I paid it off by accident. I had no clue. I was doing an inside IR35 contract, and because I was paid weekly and that was taken into consideration in terms of my pay and stuff, it meant that I was contributing weekly into my student loan, and it was a high amount. And so when I started contracting back in 2021, I paid it off in a year and a half. So I'm very happy and blessed to be in that position, but that can happen if you jump into the contracting space and you have continuity of contracts, of course. That is the caveat. But yes, I hear what they're saying. I guess the second thing to note is that we live in a very sort of like heavy subscription-based society. And there's one thing that I've noted. I personally hate subscriptions. Don't get me wrong, I've succumbed to it to some degree, but I hate it. If I can pay at least annual for something or one-off, I'll do it. This is why I love things like, websites where you can pay one-off for something or a discount for something or whatever it may be. I'm always looking for a deal, especially when it comes to the technological space as well. So, yeah. But the last thing I'd say in terms of the whole compound debt traps thing is that actually it was a consolidation loan that helped me sort out my credit situation a couple of years before. So I got myself in 30k debt. There's a video that I've done on this, so you can check out my channel if you want to learn more and how I got out of it. But a consolidation loan actually helped me. So interesting perspective and take on things, but I definitely take it on board for sure. Third thing, wage stagnation and job dependence. So encourage an employment first mindset instead of wealth building or ownership. Make salaries seem fair but ensure wages do not keep up with inflation, and over-reliance on employment benefits that disappear when someone tries to break free, i.e. healthcare tied to jobs, pension plans, etc. Now, it's hard to say because AI isn't the beholder of all things just because it's saying all of this stuff. And I'm not against employment or 9 to 5. What I do think is important is that you create your own sort of career path for yourself and you work hard to do that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I guess what this is saying though is that if you want to get rich or wealthy, then relying purely on a 9 to 5 may be a challenge. Now, it's an interesting one because, I do believe you need a business in order to become wealthy and rich. Now, hear what I'm saying here. I'm not saying you need to start a business, you need a business. So maybe you're investing in, let's say, for example, stocks and shares or ETFs, exchange traded funds. Okay, maybe you are acting as some sort of investor for something and you're getting returns. So it's not necessarily starting one, but aligning to a business and parting your money with that or some sort of sweat or equity or effort is key and important. So I think that helps, and therefore being an employee is fine then, isn't it? Because you've got a route to wealth at some point, provided that you've calculated what that specifically looks like. The other thing is in terms of like ensuring wages do not keep up with inflation. Ain't that the truth, Ruth? We've been in a situation where, I don't know if it's 20, 30, 40 years ago, properties were roughly 3 to 4 times that of salaries. When now in the UK, at least anywhere, and I think it's similar to other Western countries, it's at least 10 times that amount, And yet the wages haven't increased necessarily. And if they have, they've increased a little bit. Yes, there is a real earnings increase over the last couple of years that has been seen. But over the long period, over the long term, it's been minimal. So again, I'm sure you can use things to research this stuff for yourself so you can understand what that looks like. So that basically means that your money is being eroded and eaten away. Like, you need to put your money in savings where it's a high interest account. High is obviously subjective, but the highest that is on offer, and keep on chopping and changing when you need to. Okay. So think about cash ISAs if you're investing, stocks and shares ISAs, all of that kind of stuff there. Check to see what's happening with inflation. Check to see what's happening with your interest rates. You can check the Bank of England, or you can check COT reports or other stuff in order to learn more about this kind of jazz. Now, obviously, an over-reliance on employment benefits, etc., etc. This is an interesting one because I think it's nice that companies do sort of like support their employees when it comes to this stuff. But then obviously, if anything happens, let's say you move or whatever it may be, can you take those benefits with you? I'm not a financial guru, so ask a finance person. It's a question for you to answer, okay? But at least if you're in control of your own stuff, then it's a bit different. It just means that there is a bit of maintenance surrounded that, unless you sort of like export that out into somebody who deals with that stuff, like a financial advisor who has a similar lifestyle that you're aiming to get. Okay, number 4. It says high cost of living with essential overhead. So make housing costs a constant struggle by inflating property values and forcing long-term mortgages or high rents. What would be the alternative? Did you know mortgage comes from the old French term, I think is mortier or something like that, which means death by payment. I haven't got the right sort of like pronunciation or right word, so you can check that out in terms of the etymology of it, but death by payment, that's what mortgage means. So I hear what they're saying there. Someone had a plan. Anyway, ensure basic necessities, i.e. food, healthcare, transportation, energy, remain expensive and prices increase faster than wages. And then have a subscription-based economy. People pay monthly for everything. Like I said before. Again, what is the alternative? What's the alternative? We'll talk about the alternative at some point. That ChatGPT generated, because I'm not the beholder of these answers. I won't say ChatGPT is necessarily, but it gives us food for thought. It's a brainstorming exercise here because I want to invoke some level of awareness to a degree. The 5th thing is financial education that misleads. Whew. This is, do you know what's interesting? Maybe it's the prompt that I gave it, but it's very intentional. Like, it's almost suggesting that, you know, this is come from a certain level of intent from a group of people who have decided this stuff. Okay. Of course, this is all theoretical by nature. It says here for this 5th one, teach outdated financial advice that no longer applies. Example, saving in a low interest account versus investing. Interesting. Promote risky investment vehicles such as lottery, gamble, speculative assets as path to wealth. And what would be classed as a speculative asset? I wonder if something like cryptocurrencies are speculative by nature based on what they're saying here. Because I know before in the past where I've kind of like asked about investing and all that kind of stuff in ChatGPT, it has spoken about cryptocurrencies. That's interesting. And then it says keep real wealth building strategies, business ownership, real estate investing early, obscure or intimidating. So I guess everything I'm saying here based on what it's saying, do the opposite. Whatever that looks like. I would definitely encourage you to do this for yourself. Would you get the same response? Who knows? Who knows? The 6th thing is psychological manipulation and consumerism. Make spending feel like success, i.e. normalize buying things to feel better, luxury goods, holidays, expensive experiences. One thing I'd say about that is, just because it's saying this, I don't feel like it means that you should never do this stuff. What? Why am I making money for? I want to, spend my monies a little bit, and have those experiences. Or am I falling in a trap? Like, I don't think everything's a trap. But I think spend within your means, of course, and be sensible about it. Because if you've got a specific goal in mind, whatever that goal looks like, then your decisions are determined based on that goal. But if your goal is extreme, then you have to determine how extreme you want to be. That's what it really comes down to. So this is a judgment call based on your values. It also says for number 6, status symbols drive insecurity. So ensure that having more things is equated with self-worth. And the fear of missing out, FOMO, keep people distracted by trends, ensuring they continuously chase lifestyle upgrades. And we all know that all of that stuff is heavily facilitated by our friends' social media. It definitely is. And so this is where sort of like social media detoxing comes into play. If it means you have to stop watching me, then stop watching me. That's perfectly fine. If it means that you have to sort of like put your apps on a timer, do that kind of stuff. If that stuff is a joke to you and it doesn't necessarily work, then maybe you have to be a bit more extreme, or maybe not. Whatever works for you, do. But again, this stuff is inciting ideas. The 7th thing is false financial safety net. So encourage retirement plans that underdeliver. Example, pensions that don't keep up with inflation. Interesting. Or a certain vehicle that or for 401k style plans that collapse in a market crash. Oof. Offer government assistance that creates dependency, so ensuring people do not have enough to thrive but fear losing what little they have. This one is a big one. I'll tell you why. Okay. Now, back in 2017, there was a guy called Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the World Economic Forum, and he talks about this whole ideal in terms of ensuring that we get to a space in the world that is focused on stuff that is centered around dependence, should we say. So he says stuff like, it may make sense to have universal based income. Okay, it may make sense to have a unilateral set of governments, okay, in the West. So rather than having a UK government, a Germany government, whatever it may be, just having one. He talks about the fact that, we will not own anything to be happy. All of this kind of stuff there. Why do I say this stuff? In the light of AI, okay, and technology that is advancing and all this kind of stuff there, one could argue that is potentially pushing that narrative a bit more. Because we're getting to a point of what's known as singularity, where this tech is going to be just leveraging a lot of the efforts that we would be doing ourselves. And so where does that leave us in terms of dependency? We're becoming dependent on these things. It's something to think about, because the alternative, what do we do in those situations? Do we focus on stuff that we enjoy? If we don't follow what the government shows us to a degree, and this is not necessarily anything illegal, do we get our universal based income removed from us? What? Yeah, there's too many questions. It also says design a complex tax system where those who earn more just get taxed at higher rates, but large corporations and the ultra wealthy escape. And I would say I'm definitely within that camp where I'm starting to understand and realize how it affects people who start to make a bit more. The convoluted nature of the tax system, especially within the UK, is stressful. I'm telling you. So I can't do it yourself, and I advocate for you to get an accountant. It is also the most annoying thing in the world to know that money that you've worked for, it's not yours, it's for the government. Okay? It's very frustrating. So this is why it's important to understand and learn what is happening when it comes to these spring budgets or autumn budgets. Speak to a financial advisor, speak to a recruiter an accountant on a regular basis to learn what to do and position yourself better. Anyway, we're getting to the final point. The 8th one is the illusion of escape. Brackets, keeping the hamster wheel spinning. So regularly dangle new opportunities. In my last video, I spoke about this whole idea of new. It was inspired by a comment that I received. But new opportunities, dangle new opportunities in front of people. Side hustles, courses, certifications, investment trends. But ensure most people fail due to lack of capital and knowledge. And my friends, I'm telling you, it's not always new that is right, Maybe in the initial phases, but after that initial movement, it becomes redundant. And I'm not saying old is best, but reliable is best. I'm telling you, foundations are best. Again, what I'm saying is not new, but it's still a fact in many situations. Not in all situations, but in many. So just bear this in mind. Create cyclical market crashes that wipe out savings every 7 to 10 years, forcing people to start over. And ensure entrepreneurship is difficult with high startup costs, complex regulations, and restricted access to capital. Lord Jesus, save us all. So what does this mean? Obviously, I had to sort of work out what ChatGPT believes is the opposite. So I asked this other question, this prompt, and I'll fly through this one a bit quicker. I said, thank you for this. I have to be polite to this AI because when they become robots, I don't want no trouble, So I said, thank you. What would the opposite look like? And it said the opposite would look like the following, okay? So it's more focused on ownership, financial literacy, and economic independence, which empowers people. So the first one is financial education that actually works. So it says practical financial literacy would be taught from an early age, focusing on budgeting and cash flow management, how to build assets, so stocks, real estate, business ownership, how taxes work and how to optimize them legally, the power of compound interest and long-term investing, the risks of bad debt versus the power of good debt, example, leveraging assets for growth, and everyone would understand wealth building principles rather than just being taught how to be a good employee. I don't know why ChatGPT is being shady to employees like that. I hope I haven't been necessarily based on your sort of like viewpoint if you've been watching me for a while, but I hear it at the same time. Because what they're saying is, if you want to escape, whatever escape looks like, being a good employee is not necessarily going to be the case, because you're just building another daddy's business. But if it's for a reason and it helps you set yourself free at a certain point, then that's a different story altogether. So again, based on those bullet points that I highlighted, that's kind of like a blueprint in terms of what you need to do now. I know it says teach it from early, but look, what is earlier than yesterday? Today. Okay, so if it means you start today, whatever it may be, do that. Get the financial literacy that you need and start learning these principles, start learning these different topics. Second thing it says is ownership over employment. So shift from an employment first mindset to an ownership first mindset. So encourage starting businesses, freelancing, consulting, and investing as normal paths rather than seeing employment as the default. This is why I've got this channel. So hopefully I'm helping you, support you on that journey. Provide access to capital for starting businesses or purchasing income producing assets. So this can come from your own savings, or this can come through other means as well, such as investors, etc., etc. But I wouldn't go down getting the sort of money from investors route if you haven't got proof of concept for what you're doing initially. Okay, so that has to be good validation. Reduce excessive bureaucracy and regulatory barriers that prevent small businesses from scaling. Teach people how to buy income generating assets early, so real estate, stocks, royalties, digital products. Now, you know, there are some countries that may sort of like focus on this stuff a bit more, and the argument may be that actually, you know, this is why people are going to the Dubais, the UAEs, and all those different areas, because they encourage the growth of entrepreneurship and people come into their countries. But of course, there is always going to be a trade-off in terms of lifestyle. So these are things that you need to start thinking about for yourself. There is a reason why 10,800 millionaires left in 2024. And I think over the 5 years between 2019 and 2024 is roughly about 20 odd thousand. It says here there would be a tax system that rewards wealth building. So lower taxes on earned income, so salaries, and a shift that focuses on incentivizing productive investment. So make business ownership and asset building more tax efficient, reduce or eliminate capital gains tax for long-term investments, provide tax advantages for wealth building activities like investing in businesses, real estate, and innovation, and remove any complex loopholes. So now if you're in the UK, you'll know that it is convoluted, and it's pretty much the opposite of that stuff. And so this is why it's important to have an accountant to ensure there is tax efficiency, not evasion. Okay, that's illegal. Efficiency. So, you know, utilizing their experience and legal expertise to understand how you can basically ensure that you're not being taxed heavily. Really, really important to know. This is why I continuously advocate to get an accountant. It also talks about decentralized and accessible capital. So make access to capital fair and decentralized. So easier access to low interest business loans, crowdfunding platforms of decentralized finance, and community-based investment pools that allow people to jointly invest in assets rather than keeping wealth building exclusive to the rich. I think we could do that now to a degree. I think there are some people who are already starting that already with some of the groups that they're starting up. Is there a community where you can leverage the use of your monies and your expertise? You know, so I mean, if this is an idea that you want to start it. Why not? I mean, I don't want to go through all of this. It's getting a bit long and wordy, but I'm going to go through the main headlines. So we've also got affordable and smart cost of living. So ensure that there is prevent extreme rent inflation by encouraging ownership models like cooperatives, fractional real estate investment, and community land trusts. So ensuring that you're not locked up in massive debts through property or ownership, and reduce dependence on debt-based living. So, you know, this is the whole subscription economy and all that kind of stuff there. So you're moving from subscriptions to ownership. Number 6, a resilient wealth-focused economy. So promote diverse income streams over single income dependency. So I don't need to go through that stuff. But what I will say is, even though there is this whole, the average millionaire has 7 income streams, they had one first. Remember that one. This is what I call the whale. So you need to focus on being very good at your whale income stream before you start thinking about the others. And you may be saying, well, actually, you've been talking about this whole portfolio career stuff. But yes, I have. But if you've understood the thread that I've been talking about it from, there is a theme. And that theme has heavily stemmed from that initial main income stream. Okay. If you get really good at that and you can generate great income from that, even if it requires your time, then you can start investing that money into other stuff that can slowly build another one and then another one. And then it makes sense. Then you can leave the initial thing if you want to and focus on the stuff that you're building. So be strategic about it. You have to be don't just like hear what people are saying, take for face value. If I'm saying something, deeply think about it, whether you agree or not. Okay? Deeply think about it in context to you as a person. It also says protect against financial manipulation, so stop market crashes, end predatory financial products, etc., etc. Okay, move to the next one. 7, mindset shift and social reinforcement. So encourage long-term wealth over short-term materialism. Make financial growth a community-based effort. Normalize financial discipline and delayed gratification. Hey, my friends, that means stopping the Deliveroo, stopping the Uber Eats, or minimizing it at least anyway. Stop getting jealous that people go on a holiday and that you can't afford a holiday and all this kind of jazz there. Take time. Sort out the foundations. I'm not saying don't do any of those things. Just take time. Okay? It also says reduce the status-driven consumerist mindset that keeps people spending rather than investing. And the final thing is, number 8, a realistic path to financial freedom. So it says guaranteed financial mobility. If someone follows a structured plan, they should be able to achieve financial stability and wealth within a reasonable time frame. And what they're calling reasonable is 10 to 20 years. And you're like, hey, Charlie, I've got all this time. Hey, 10 to 20 years is better than 50. Okay. So you have to make this choice. So it talks about wealth building steps looking like, okay, learning financial literacy, securing an income source, so a job or a business or freelancing, reduce unnecessary spending and eliminate toxic debt, invest in assets such as stocks, real estate, or business ownership, scale income through diversification and smart investments, reinvest gains into new opportunities of financial education, and achieve financial freedom and contribute to others' growth. That was a lot. Oh my gosh. I've never done a video like this before. And I found this whole thing interesting because the first part, the first section that ChatGPT generated based on a society or system that doesn't want anyone to escape the rat race, so to speak, is currently what we're living in right now. It's currently what we're living in right now. And there are some people who will say, actually, there is many of us who will never escape the system, potentially including myself. Now, I would argue that I'm kind of in this weird space. I'm kind of in it, I'm kind of not. But I'm still in it, you know? And so we have to find ways, okay, and hopefully my channel contributes towards this, to not just give hope, but give practical solutions to get out of it. So me talking about this stuff is an awareness piece. That's what it is. It's an awareness piece that gets you thinking about, what do I need to do? What plan do I need to generate? What am I doing and what am I not doing? So it's not just about me just giving you, because I've learned that, especially, you know, over the 400 plus different one-to-one coaching hours I've had with different individuals, if there isn't a willingness from the individual, they're not going to change. It doesn't matter what anyone says. It's not about motivation or getting inspired by someone. It's what are you willing to do? And that comes before someone like myself or anyone else who's more likely to inspire and motivate you can give you and impart words on you. It has to be within. So just bear all of this stuff in mind. And just take the action that is required. It is extremely difficult right now. I'm not even going to try front and make it seem like it's some simple thing to do. The economy is different than what it was 2 years ago, let alone 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago, let alone 30 years ago. But there are still people who are making it work, and you have to, it's not just about belief, it's about being real with yourself and honest with yourself. What can I do within my gift? And starting from there. Because the quicker you are in terms of your honesty, the faster you can move and start resolving some of the challenges that you may be facing. Now, some of them are purely market condition situations, but there are other things that you can control and or influence and change. It just requires some work. The more work you put in, I say that very loosely because it's not just about more. Sometimes it's about how you do it and the smarts behind it. The increased probability of success. Notice I didn't say success. Increase probability. You are positioning yourself within an environment where you are more likely going to get a positive outcome that is conducive to your goals. Anyway, let me stop talking there. Hopefully this has given you some insight in terms of how you can start maneuvering, especially within this given system, especially within this whole scary space that's happening, especially with the talks of war and all this kind of stuff there. We have to remain vigilant. We need to do what we need to do and hopefully get out of the ruckus that we may be in. If you want to see more videos centered around portfolio careers, independent consulting, or anything centered around some of the stuff I talk about, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.